Now, we've seen some amazing companies get built in our lifetimes here, and most of these companies have failed, relatively speaking, by most standards. These companies are new, and the ones on the left started in garages. The ones on the right started in dorm rooms, which has been the biggest trend. And we have some, of course, that are starting in basements, like Comply, which Rob's involved in, literally started in a basement. That's not unheard of. I mean, it happens time and time again. I think it's great. So anything can happen is the point of this. I know not everybody here is going to necessarily be the next Apple or the next Facebook or something. That's not the point. But the point is, it does happen. Another key to success here is not to be greedy. And here's what the point is. Share the wealth. And let me go right through this. If you can, have stock options for employees. You don't always have to keep 51% of the company. Now, obviously, if I'm advising somebody and they can keep 51% of the company or more, I'm going to tell them that, okay? But sometimes it's more important to have a small piece of a big pie than a big piece of a small pie. Okay, you follow that? I mean, it's not, if everybody's pulling together, you got the right investors, and you've got a significant opportunity, and it takes capital, and you end up having less than controlling ownership in the company, sometimes that still works out very, very well. I mean, that's certainly the model in Silicon Valley where I'm from. Focus, focus, focus. I think Rob covered that. And your value added. Don't do everything yourself. And don't try to do everything well. You got to be a little careful that you don't overdo it. I mean, it's important to do things well, let's face it. But not everything. Do what you're really good at well. I mean, make sure you focus on that, the important things. And an interesting example, you can outsource, you can use distributors, you can build on somebody else's technology, et cetera. Sam Adams, didn't even brew their own beer. I mean, this is, there's many examples of that, okay? So they were totally outsourced in terms of the whole brewing thing. Now, there's a huge number of mistakes. Some of these are the antithesis of what I've already said, so I don't want to, I'm going to go through this kind of quickly. This is a real one, bottled water for pets. Wrong idea. I wouldn't say Me Too product, but nevertheless, I guess Me Too relative to the toilet or something, I'm not sure. Small market, value proposition not compelling. These are the typical things we see. An insufficient defensive position versus the competition. You've got to have a way of protecting your space. If you don't have that, you're pretty weak. A flawed business model. Back to my point on business models. What is typically wrong when I say flawed business model, it's not scalable. Usually this is what you see. This is the most common thing. It takes so much capital. You have to get to such high volumes, or the business has to be so big before it can succeed, that it's the wrong business model. I hesitate to say this. I see businesses in Hamilton all the time, and I feel I have great empathy for businesses who start and then you see them fail, or they start off with too much overhead. And I'm not going to name any names. I saw some. I give people incredible credit for attempting what they do. But sometimes you can see it right from the get-go. Why did they do that? Why did they take on that level of overhead to do what they're doing? They had a successful model in one place, then they turn out, maybe what they do is they say, okay, I need bigger space, so I'll get a whole new building. And then all of a sudden they're drowning in bank debt, or, there's all kinds of examples of that. You have to be really, really careful. And then you have to also be sure it's feasible to even raise the money you need. Clearly most people are overly optimistic. Got to get real. Be conservative. There's nothing wrong with being conservative in your planning, okay? And these things are all typical. Underestimate capital, underestimate the unrealistic growth. They're too optimistic on the growth, underestimate the capital. It's a formula for a disaster. Spending ahead of revenues and profits. Wrong investors. I mean, you could write a book on this. If you do get money from investors, which is what we're talking about, you better know who you're getting into bed with. It's really, really important. There are different kinds of investors. Now, a wrong investor, it's not always, you say, oh, I'm going to get money. It's all the same color. It's green, right? Well, you want more than money if you're going to give up part of your business, et cetera. You want somebody who can help you. You want somebody who has expertise in the field, hopefully. You want somebody who can open doors. You want somebody who maybe has been through this before, who understands what you've got to deal with. There's got to be a lot of synergy. And if you get, nothing's worse than having an impatient investor or an investor who you get sideways with, and then they're forcing you to do something that you don't want to do or puts an end to your dream. And that happens a lot. And this goes on. I mean, unfortunately, there's more mistakes than there are keys to success. Try to do too much. Rob mentioned, you only can do one thing at a time. Don't reinvent the wheel. In your business, try to focus on the stuff that you're really adding value. If somebody else has already invented the wheel, just build something on top of the wheel. One product at a time, meet your schedules, whatever it is. You're going to have something developed, you're going to open a store, whatever it is. Don't spend too quickly, and I'll go through these really quickly because and you can't, by the way, an interesting lesson, at least this is from the technology business, it may, I think it applies in a lot of businesses. You can't always force the adoption curve, okay? We like to think you can spend money, whether it's advertising, et cetera. There are sometimes it takes time before people can internalize what you're offering and what you're doing, and that's going to depend on the nature of the business, okay? So America is still the land of opportunity, as I said, I think earlier, and here's a bunch of other companies. These are that have very recent startups in most cases here, and look at the size of the valuations of those. And then even in Montana, we did a little search. Now these are not as big, but we have companies that are doing well in Montana, and a lot of these are in Bozeman, by the way. Might be a good place for a venture capital firm, I don't know. But it's good to see this. I think this is great. And so with that, I hope this has been helpful. I wish you all the best in whatever your endeavor is, and hopefully opened your eyes on some of this. I'll be ready to take some questions. Thank you.